Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Let's talk financial stress. Financial stress affects far more than our bank accounts. It can take a serious toll on mental health and relationships. And with 88% of Americans feeling some form of financial stress at the start of 2026, this is a big deal. To complicate matters, so many people have their identity tied to a number in their bank account or how much money they have, or they compare themselves to others who might have more. None of this is good for our mental health or our nervous system. I want to mention that BetterHelp has 30,000 therapists and is the world's largest online therapy platform. They have an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 stars for live sessions based off 1.7 million client reviews. Talking it out always helps. When life feels overwhelming, therapy can help. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/elevator. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/elevator. Recovery Elevator episode 583.
I love life so much alcohol-free. What has happened in these last 4 years is nothing short of a miracle, and I love it.
Welcome to the Recovery Elevator Podcast. My name is Paul Churchill, and this is how we quit. On today's episode, we have Aimee. She's 51 years old, from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and she took her last drink of alcohol on March 20th, 2022. Great job, Aimee. It's been 4,218 days since my last drink, and 1 day since I went overboard with maple donuts. Yikes, I need to get that under wraps, but do I? They're just so damn good. Listeners, I am not a fan of the word only. I hear too many times when people say, I've only got 3 days away from alcohol, or I'm only in my first 30 days. To that, I say nonsense. Any amount of time away from alcohol is solid gold. It's a miracle, and you're doing what you didn't think could be done before. That makes you my hero, so ditch the word only. Okay, let's get started. Big Alcohol had a hard-on the size of the Empire State Building for more than 50 years, knowing that the most popular and widely recognized program to treat alcohol addiction, AA, had the word anonymous in it. Well, has the word anonymous in it. Does this make sense? Big Alcohol knows they are selling an addictive drug, the most addictive drug, and it's a total gift to them basically saying, hey, we saw your advertisements about how alcohol would calm us down, enhance our lives. We then drank it, didn't experience that, and worse, became addicted to it, and it almost ruined my life. But no worry, I'll keep my mouth shut. It's like buying a product on Amazon that says it will deliver happiness and wholeness. It then almost kills you, and then you don't leave a 1-star review. Okay, I'm not dogging AA either. I'm a fan of AA. I'm a member, and I go to meetings. But this anonymous thing has done wonders to keep the stigma going. And it's also not in line with what Bill W. was thinking when he made the program. This is an excerpt from the book called As Bill Sees It, from the founder of AA. This is talking about anonymity. He says, as a rule, the average newcomer wanted his family to know immediately what he was trying to do. He also wanted to tell others who had tried to help him, his doctor, his minister, and close friends. As he gained confidence, he felt it right to explain his new way of life to his employer and business associates. When opportunities to be helpful came along, he found he could easily talk about AA to almost anyone. These disclosures helped him lose his fear of the alcoholic stigma and spread the news of AA's existence in his community. Many a new man and woman came to AA because of such conversations. In that passage, it says, explain his new way of life to his employer and his coworkers. It says, talk about it to defang the stigma and spread the news of AA's existence in the community. So the way I read it, I don't think Bill W. ever intended the anonymity component to be almost a curtain of shame for people to stand behind or to hide behind. What he does intend with the word anonymous or the anonymity component is what is shared in AA, in the meetings, needs to stay in the meetings. Now, that's super important. So Big Alcohol was pumped, jazzed, that while looking at their profit margins, their customers who became addicted to alcohol and many of them who died, they weren't talking about it. They were anonymous. And the dead people, of course they can't talk about it, so that just leaves one group, the person who has recovered. So this is starting to all change, thank goodness, and it has changed. In the last 4 years alone, Big Alcohol has lost $830 billion in revenue. That's almost $1 trillion because people are talking about this. And if you go way back into the Recovery Elevator vault, you'll hear me say in the initial episodes that one of my key goals here is to shred the shame with addiction. And we have done that in a way bigger way than you think, like Stoli Vodka went bankrupt in the USA type of way. So great job, everybody. We have to keep talking about this, just like Bill W. says. Now, it's a tragedy drinking has been marketed as good for us, but we're starting to get it right. And just like the effects of Viagra soon wear off, but do go see a doctor if you've had an erection for more than 4 hours, that hard-on that Big Alcohol had for decades, it's becoming flaccid, soft, and lonely. Guys, I laughed so hard when I went back and edited that last part. I was like, do I keep that? Yeah, we're keeping it. And before we hear from Aimee, let's hear from Cafe RE.
Are you worried that life after alcohol won't be any fun? Like, who are you going to hang out with? And is it possible to go to a concert sober and even enjoy yourself? Maybe you're realizing your entire social circle and hobbies, think ice fishing, are all built upon alcohol. Here's the twist, the hard truth. Sobriety is way more fun when you're surrounded by the right people. Cafe RE is a 501c3 nonprofit that is all about community-based recovery. For only a fraction of what your monthly alcohol bill would be, you'll get access to over 25 chats and meetings a week. You get paired with an accountability partner as many times as you'd like, and you get 24/7 access to a global network of sober humans doing cool stuff. From our yearly service project to meetups around the world, we've been at this for over 10 years, so we've got the vibe down. If you've got questions like, how the hell do I quit drinking? Someone in the community has the answer. And we're not dwelling on the void left by alcohol. We're out there having a good time. All we ask is that you show up as your authentic self. We'll be here. Go to www.cafe-re.org and enter the promo code CONNECT for your first month free. Again, that's cafe-re.org and use the code CONNECT for your first month free.
Aimee, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking, Aimee. Let's get right into this. When was your last drink?
March 20th, 2022.
Right on. You just celebrated 4 years away from your last drink at the time of the recording. How do you feel, Aimee?
I feel great. Quitting drinking saved my life.
Yeah, we got that in common. Me too. And it took me a while to figure out, like, God, what is the problem here? I imagine it was a journey for you as well, right?
Yeah, it was. I drank every day, typically to the point where I was buzzed or I would black out. So was a daily drinker.
If you could describe your life today in just a couple words post-drink, what would that be?
I just have one word and it's free. I'm in the Cafe RE community and alcohol consumed my every thought when I was drinking. And looking back, I don't really think about it anymore. It's not a thing.
Freedom is found on the inside. And Aimee here just dropped a huge value bomb. One word to describe your life, and that's free. You thought about it every single day. We're under a minute in this interview, and I know so many people are nodding their heads wherever they're at in their journey. If they're trying to find that day one, it's like, yep, I'm thinking about this every day. It's taking up so much mental bandwidth. Aimee, I'm excited to hear what has been on the other side of the bottle. But before we do that, Aimee, give listeners a little background about yourself. This is where you're from, your age, what do you do for a living, maybe what your family life looks like, and what do you like to do for fun?
I am in Minneapolis. I work for a large medical device company. I have two adult children. I'm married. For fun, since quitting drinking, I have found my love for travel. Most of my friends now are alcohol free. I do have some people, my family, both my kids and my husband, they do drink. So alcohol isn't removed from my lifestyle. But yeah, a lot of my friends and I love it. Life is really great now. I'm originally from Texas. So coming to Minnesota where we still have winter is really a challenge. I would love to get back to a warm climate weather state. I'm working on finishing my degree. And I also have, since quitting drinking, started to dabble in mixed media and art. So that's a little bit about my background.
A quick funny story about Aimee. Before we hit record, I asked basic questions, your age, location, your last drink, and I asked age and she said 50. And then like 10 seconds later, I have to correct something. I'm 51.
Did I say it again? Did I say 51?
I actually don't think you said your age this time,
Okay.
but
I was like, I could have said it again. Maybe that's
51. And I asked somebody that question. This is like 6 years ago, and they were offended. They're like, I'm not answering it. Okay, when was your last drink? Let's just proceed. You said travel. Do you have a trip planned?
I don't have anything planned. Nashville maybe in the fall, but I recently went to Nashville. I did a solo trip. A Christian artist was in Nashville, and so I took a trip by myself, something I would have never done when I was drinking. And then I've gone to Austin a couple of times, Florida several times, and all of these things have happened more so because I'm sober. My son, when he graduated from high school, we had a trip to Cozumel that we went with family. I was contemplating not taking that trip just because of the connotation it was going to be, a drinking thing, but I survived through it. So yeah, I enjoy traveling and meeting people who are sober.
Right on, Aimee.
Bozeman might be on my next adventure this late summer.
Yeah, we'd love to have you. Registration just opened. Well, Aimee, I'm going to turn it over to you with your story with alcohol into and out of a drinking problem. Let's roll.
So I guess my story starts when I was 12. My parents were divorced. My dad had gone to inpatient treatment, and that was really hard for me. I recall having to go visit him at the treatment center and just seeing him so sad, all the people there. That was probably his rock bottom. And of course, my mom and I had a strained relationship. At the time, we've since mended that. Once I got into about 16 years old, I was hanging around with the wrong crowds too. There was this allure to be welcomed just because I never really felt a part of a group. My parents were divorced, my mom was working a lot. So I ended up moving to Minnesota because of my dad. And it really was a blessing in disguise. My dad did suffer from, he was in recovery, but he also suffered from depression. But he was doing fine when I moved to live with him. And even though it was a blessing in disguise, when I moved here, I was also bullied, which I'm now learning has had a big impact on how I am as an adult now. Kids were just so cruel to me. And I didn't realize that probably until like a couple of years ago.
Do you
Yeah.
mean when reflecting on your childhood, it was like, whoa, that was totally wrong?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the things that they said were just so cruel.
Was this, you think, because you were the new kid?
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think what, like the bullies, it was some of the jocks were the ones who bullied me and laughed and made fun. So all I wanted to do was shrink and be small. And I put that memory away for quite a while. And honestly, it just came up probably within the last 2 years. And I don't know if drinking had pushed that down.
I want to make a comment on that. You said it just came up with like the last 2 years. So these are emotions or repressed feelings that have to be felt, processed, almost like a windstorm or whatever energetic storm. It has to finalize its course. And with alcohol, it'll never come up. and nothing will come up. Everything will just be pushed down to the very bottom until you die. You're carrying around such an intense energetic load that wants to be released. This energy wants to return back to the universe. And it came up when the time was right, about 2 years away from alcohol. I want to get to that a little later in the interview and the healing part of what had to come up to be felt and processed. And I'm sorry to hear about the bullying thing. My gosh, kids can be yikes. And I imagine, I think you said you had 2 kids. You've probably had
Yeah.
chats with them about bullying. Number one, how to receive it if that happens. But number two, how to stand up for other kids and other children. And that's not okay. You're doing awesome, Aimee. Keep going.
Yeah. Thanks. So fast forward now into my 20s, I'm married, I'm dating actually my husband, and my dad had lost his mom. And this is when I think he kind of lost himself. He was the youngest, he is a twin. He was less involved in AA, and I didn't mention this, but he was quite involved in AA. He had a lot of friends and really partaked in some of the activities within AA. But at this time, he stopped going to meetings. He just didn't have a community. And he didn't necessarily share that part with me very much in the fact of like conversations. Like I was very much aware that, this was an AA thing. These were AA friends, but that was about it. And then I started to parent my father. He was missing work. And so I was having to call and check to make sure he went to work, that kind of thing. And yeah, it really took a toll on his mental health. So then now me and my husband are married. We have our children, and they are very active in sports. And, at an early age, my son started skating when he was 4. My daughter was into, soccer, and she also played hockey. And a lot of those sports tournaments, those weekends with playing sports turned into parties for parents. And that was a time where we could have fun, and we would pick places. Often places were picked. I shouldn't say often places were picked, and there was bars nearby, and the parents would party in the parking lot, you name it. When I first quit, I used to say that Kettle One called and wanted their vodka back because I was drinking and vodka was my drink of choice. And so lines get blurred when my drinking really became a problem. But probably in 2018 is when I recognized that maybe things needed to change. And in 2019, my father passed away. And so shortly after he passed away, kind of as an omen or a remembrance of him, I thought, I'm going to quit drinking for 1 year.
Did your father remain sober after he went to treatment when you were
Yes.
12?
Yeah, he had 40 or more years,
Yeah.
maybe 50 years of living alcohol free. So 2019, so we're not quite at the pandemic yet. And my father had passed away in August of 2019. And so in that September, I decided for 1 year, I'll just quit drinking. And really, probably this is where my true story begins, because I really was telling myself, I don't know if I can quit, but if I can do this thing and have this excuse that I'm doing it for my father, and I can prove to myself that I can quit, then I don't have a problem. And so many people validated me. I remember people telling me like, oh my God, I could never do that. And so I thought in my mind, if they can't do that and I can, they're the ones with the problem, not me. So I really felt validated, and I was getting through the day. I didn't drink during the day. Once 5 o'clock came, that's when I would have drinks. And
Aimee, let me make a point. I want everybody to think about their drinking. And was there a time where they proved to themselves that they don't have a drinking problem? Like you said, you went a year without alcohol. I mean, I think the goal was not to go the rest of your life alcohol free. It was to prove to yourself that you didn't have a drinking problem. I went 30 days one time. I did all kinds of things. Well, I'm good. And I would just find ways to always like cheat the results so the outcome would be the same. I don't have a drinking problem. Game on. Let's party. Let's roll. We've all done
yeah,
it.
I stayed alcohol free probably like about 15 months, but I had no community. I didn't even know, other than AA, I had no idea what Quit Lit was. There's a podcast that's no longer on. I might have been listening to it at the time, but I knew AA wasn't the platform for me. Obviously did wonders for my dad and many others. So nothing against AA, just wasn't something that I was looking to do. So I went back out and started drinking again. I would do stints of, like make a fool of myself. So then I'd say, okay, I'm not going to drink anymore. And it would last 30 days. And again, I still had no idea about these other communities. So then finally in 2022, I finally Googled other options. It was a Sunday night and I was buzzed. I'm pretty sure, possibly drunk. And I Googled other communities other than AA. And, I really found what I needed. Also, my husband in about 2 weeks was going in for open heart surgery. And so this was really critical that I quit drinking only because of the amount of care that would be needed for him that last week after surgery. It's so critical. The chances of getting a stroke after open heart surgery is so prevalent. And so based on the amount of drinking that I was doing, I knew I would not be able to care for him.
Can I ask you how much you were drinking? Was it nightly?
Nightly.
What type of alcohol?
Vodka.
Oh, Kettle One.
Yeah. I would say, anywhere from 5 drinks, or more. I drank a lot. And it wasn't straight, I shouldn't say. I mixed it with, like a soda or something, but I was drinking a lot. And so I knew the care that he would need, I did need to quit. So I was white knuckling it. And I just want to add that this is something else that I had no idea. The amount of drinking that I did, I should have sought medical attention to quit. I was drinking. I didn't realize this at the time. Again, I mentioned that I'm very naive to some of the options that are out there and available to people. And this would have been one of the things. I didn't realize how deadly it could be to just stop. And I had the night sweats, and I really should have probably had some medical attention or somehow moderated my way down. But I had no idea that this could be so critical when I quit.
Yeah, that's a big one, listeners. Definitely think about seeking medical attention with this. And you just said taper down or moderate down. That's a difficult strategy. One I've yet to hear work, but for sure, yeah, I had audible hallucinations for about 3 weeks. Like I was going nuts, like literally losing the seat of my mind in my body. And I was not aware of that as well. Is this around March of 2022 when
Yeah.
you're going through this? Okay, so something
Correct.
inside of you said, my husband is going in for open heart surgery. I need to be present. He needs me to be present. The risk of stroke increases. And so you kind of just white knuckle it, I'm hearing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember being in the not sure if he's going to make it through. And at the same time, being like 10 days sober, not sure if I'm going to make it through.
Oh, wow.
Part of recovery is we have this shame. And I remember driving home from the hospital thinking, like, why me, God? Why do I have this problem?
I want to highlight the amount of fear that Aimee has pushed through is in the unknown. I don't know if my husband's going to make it. I don't know if I'm going to make it. I can only imagine of that weight. It almost landed on my shoulders a little bit when you said that, going, wow. And there had to been a large voice with like a megaphone saying, Aimee, this is extremely painful and scary, and we don't know what's going on. These emotions are incredibly uncomfortable. You know what's going to make it better, right? How did you
Yeah.
get through that? How did you combat that voice? And I don't even like the word combat. How did you let that voice go or continue to speak but not latch onto it?
It's community. I shared previously that I quit drinking for 15 months and I made it through and then would make it for stints at a time. I didn't have community any of those times. And that saved me. And it's working. Yeah.
Okay, tell me community. So other people knew about your goals to quit drinking. Describe this a little bit more. You had some accountability in place.
Well, I was kind of quiet actually. I didn't really tell my husband. I think definitely he knew that I probably should stop drinking. But at the same time, if I would have been told, like, you need to quit drinking, I probably would have said no. I would have like purchased a distillery. But community is really what helped me. So that night, that in March, when I had Googled other communities outside of AA, I logged on to meetings and I would listen, and I didn't really share much, but just knowing that I could and had other people that were similar, I'm not alone. That made that voice small. Because I think for me, my drinking, when it was bad, I was isolating. I couldn't drink among other people. So that's really where community, Cafe RE, has been beneficial in my sobriety. And so I just want to say, like, also, you highlighted, and I am really proud of myself because not only was my husband going through open heart surgery, my son was recovering from ACL surgery. We had a dog who had vestibular. She was diagnosed the day before his surgery with vestibular. So that's kind of like a vertigo for adults. And so we thought she was having a stroke. And I mean, there were a lot of things that were giving me an option to throw in the towel and say, like, F this and just go back to it. And then also, I remember one day I was home before I had go to visit him. My other dog had a medical emergency, and it was just like, when am I going to get a break? And I think it was just all of this drinking throughout those years, and just everything just kind of came together. But if I hadn't had community, I definitely wouldn't have stayed sober. I know that.
Was that almost a gift to your husband, like 3 weeks after his surgery? Like, oh, by the way, I'm not drinking anymore. How did that conversation go?
Yeah, I remember distinctly, I say, well, open heart surgery saved my husband's life. His surgery also saved mine. It was kind of the pandemic still. We were just coming out of the pandemic, kind of, whenever I quit drinking. So a lot of things were still online. And in fact, people were like still uncomfortable being in crowds. Some people, it just wasn't, especially here in Minnesota, things weren't like widely opened. So being on a lot of calls, my husband, I think, just chalked it up to me being on work calls. But I was on community chats all the time. And I remember telling him, I said, I quit drinking. And he distinctly asked forever. And that wasn't something I was prepared to answer at the time.
Wait, you said he distinctly asked forever? Does this mean in the
Yeah.
past, like, hey, Amy, when are you going to quit drinking? Hey, when are you going to quit drinking?
Yeah. I think ultimately we just sometimes have this perception that, when you retire, you're just going to sit on the porch and, drink wine together. And maybe that at least was my kind of perception of how it was. So I think he was just kind of trying to rationalize. And again, he's super supportive, but yeah, I don't know if he was able to grasp that forever. And I don't know if he knew what that meant. And I also didn't know how to answer that. And I recall people, you hear in communities like, I can't worry about tomorrow. I can only worry about today. And so I can say for right now, today, I'm not drinking. And that not looking at forever was very pivotal for me in early sobriety. I can't look at 2 weeks from now. Like, I'm hoping I can just make it to tomorrow. And then that's exactly how I answered it. I said, I can't talk about forever, but I can say right now, I'm not drinking.
I think
Uh,
if there's one phrase in this space that gets the most flack, it's one day at a time. But Amy did such a beautiful job of unpacking that, is in it lightens the load. I can't think about forever, nor 2 weeks. I'm just going to roll with today. And so you're taking it day by day, Amy. What was the first month like? Was there a voice that said, yo, we just went 3 weeks or a month without alcohol? Wasn't that bad? We can't have a drinking problem.
yeah, I never heard that voice come in, especially like that first week. I mean, literally hours started stacking up on itself. And then that first week, that was really helpful for me. Like I said, there was a lot stacked against me, and there continues to be, as I navigate other things through life. I'm going back to school. So what does that look like for my future? And when I should probably start exploring like retirement and those kind of things. But yeah, sobriety and quitting drinking has just been the best decision I ever made. And I truly wish that I had known like what I knew in 2022. I wish I had known that in 2019 because I probably would have remained alcohol free. I really think so.
You said something about the passage of time is then it just kept stacking up. It is neat how sobriety pulls us closer to the present moment. And, if you build a house, like you have to grab the hammer, the nails, and go out and build it. You have to take action to do it. But with sobriety, it almost solves itself with time. It just goes. As long as we don't drink, you'll go, wait a second, it's been a day. Wait a second, it's been 2 days. Wait a second, it's been a whole year since I haven't drank. And what physical and mental changes did you notice that first year?
Just the fact of being free and not having that crippling. I guess one of the things I'll say that I didn't really talk about when I was drinking, I would forget, I would black out. So I would forget what I did or said the night before. It was embarrassing, I think. I would have been embarrassed had I known those things. So not having that was just huge. I knew what I did the night before. I didn't have that fog in my mind. And so those moments are just priceless.
Was there a call to a higher power? Did you ask for strength? Earlier you said, dear God, or why? Why is this happening? So you're trying to make contact with somebody or something. Tell me more.
I do believe in God, and I do think he was working his way into my life. I wouldn't say I'm super close. I don't necessarily attend church all the time. I do have a church that I tithe to, and I'm looking to get closer, but I do think that God intervened and saved me.
Listeners, I've done enough of these interviews to extrapolate some viewpoints where something bigger is taking place. And not to say like, oh, you quit drinking and then all the shoes are going to drop, but you had some challenges where you intuitively knew there's no chance I'm getting through this if Kettle One is still in the co-seat with me. It's just not possible. The dog, the other dog, your husband's surgery, that's a huge one. Yeah, you just intuitively knew you were listening to a sense that was picking up on something that was coming down the road. I've heard so many times where people quit drinking and then a month later or 6 months later, the biggest challenge of their life arises. And they know unequivocally there's not a chance I could have made it through if alcohol was in my life still. So it's beautiful how it all lines up at the end. It doesn't make sense to me. But one thing I've tried to lean into is everything is perfect just the way it is. And there's another phrase where your higher power, the universe, will never overstack the plate. It will never break you. It might feel like you're broken, you're breaking, like in the progressive tense, like you're driving home from the hospital going, what the heck? Are you kidding me? But it's all working for you in your favor. And I don't think that's like a toxic positive spin on things. That's just my own life experience and also pulling from hundreds of these chats. I'm listening, I'm taking notes, and I'm going, wait, whoa, okay. Something is working for us, a benevolent energy. I think you just said you called it God, but you listened. How awesome is that, Aimee? Because I think we both know the outcome might have been a lot different. If you were
Yeah.
drinking during the recovery of your husband's surgery and being there for your pets, your dogs, which are definitely a huge part of the family. What was it like when you hit year one and then year two and then year three? Was it like, well, let's just keep this going? Was it like, I never thought I'd make it this far?
I mean, truthfully, I didn't. I remember in the early days, when I would hear people have 6 months, I was thinking like, oh my gosh, wow. So when I got to a year, I think I was, they talk a lot about a pink cloud. So that's when like things are going generally well. Like I did say some things were kind of stacked up against me. And while I did have those things, in general, things were going well. I would say year two and year three kind of got harder. Life just started getting back to, I don't know if normal is the right thing, but there's things that come up and with relationships, with families. I have young families. I've learned that my young adult children, that drinking can sometimes not necessarily bother me, but I have to navigate my own relationship with it. They're drinking normally. That's what we all did. And my fear is that I want to protect them from what I have. So, having to navigate that not project it on them is something that I am working through. still today, I mentioned they're young adults, and so they're early in their 20s and both can drink. So that's something that was in my probably second and third year, something that I really had to navigate.
I got a 2-year-old Aimee, and when I think about addiction and possibly will that be in his future, I recoil. It's like painful to think about. And the solution to that, the only thing that I can do is give him an example. I pray to the heavens that my kiddo is never going to see Papa drinking a beer, right? And that's the best example I can give. And if my son does struggle in life with addiction and shit, there will be struggles in general. I hope he can look to a North Star and be like, man, my dad did struggle. I mean, he can read books. I've published books about this, but yeah, he just has an example to see. Aimee, I want to talk to you about being small. You talked about being bullied as a child and you just wanted to be small. Now, you mentioned travel earlier. You mentioned going back to school. That is not being small. And is this something you're being called to do these things? Or is that voice saying, like, no, we're not going back to school. We're not doing that. You're not being small anymore. Tell us more about this.
Going back to school, and I should say, like, when I was drinking, there's absolutely no way I could be doing this, going to school. So it's something that I've had on my bucket list for quite some time throughout my kids' life. And now that they're older, I'm able to do it. Now that I'm not drinking, I'm able to understand what I'm learning. And same with travel, like thinking back, I don't know that I could navigate, when I was drinking an airport. I would probably be making a fool of myself at the airport bar. And just, I love life so much, alcohol free. What has happened in these last 4 years is nothing short of a miracle. And I love it. Even with all of the obstacles stacked against me, I can't highlight enough about how much community plays in life, because you even alluded to it. Sometimes there are things that come up that we don't see coming. And it's because of community that allows us, when those things arise, that we can remain alcohol free. I just can't highlight it enough, is how important community is, whatever that is for somebody. Cafe RE is great. There's other things. I mean, like if we think about it, school is a community, our work is a community, our church is a community. I mean, if those are your things, craft, when you're doing crafts, all those things are communities, and that's what keeps people together. And so I think with alcohol free, when we have circumstances that come up, it is just so important to make sure that we have these options available to us, because something will come up and we aren't prepared for.
That's 583 consecutive weeks where community has been a vital part of your sobriety. And I've said many times in this podcast, there's no right or wrong way to do this, but there's a caveat there. You can't do it alone. I don't want to say it's the wrong way, because that often shows you what's not the right pathway. And it's weird because the community thing, it's the hardest muscle to build. We don't really know how to build it. We're not very good at that because it's instinctively built into our DNA. That's like how we've evolved for millions of years. You're born and there's 50, 60 sets of eyes on you, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, you community members. You're like in a teepee with 12 people. And so building it, it's foreign to us. It's hard. But my recommendation is to build it before shit gets tough, right? Like build it in the pink cloud. Build it while you're drinking. And this is why going to AA or a cafe RE community chat is so important. We always have to have it. Our biological circuitry, chemicals of connection like oxytocin, serotonin, they only function when we have proper community in place. So, Aimee, what is on your bucket list in an alcohol free life? Earlier, you said the word free to describe your life. You're free. You can do whatever you want, right? You're 50. Nope, 51. What's on the horizon for you, Aimee?
I think just continuing to travel is something that I'm looking forward to. Most of my friends are alcohol free, and it's just such a beautiful thing to be able to connect with them and meet up with them in all the different locations that we go to. I've gone to Florida a few times, California, we've gone to Austin. It's so free and so fun now. it's its own euphoria, I guess. It's just so amazing to be not have this cloud. I think about all the money that I spent when I would go to concerts and not remember them. I can actually go to a concert and enjoy and reflect back on what I heard and what I saw. So just continuing to do that is just something that I look forward to.
You use the word euphoria, and I would get euphoria from drinking, but the most sustained euphoria you can get is good connection with friends. Life is so complicated, but at the same time, it's not at all. We have to be surrounded by people and people who love us and support us, like-minded individuals. I heard a line in our community a couple months ago that was so true. It takes a long time to make good friends, especially in adulthood. It's hard. We're busy. In recovery, it doesn't take a long time to make good friends. You have such a strong common denominator. You've both gone through such intense pain moments. It's like, oh, you too? All right, surface level conversation aside, let's talk about your rock bottom moment. Things like that. It's so cool. And we need to leverage the drinking problem. We need to leverage the pain points because there's a community open to us, willing to accept us as we are every single day. When I travel, I love to go to AA meetings because you walk in the room and instant community there. Being a recovering alcoholic and sobriety has been a blessing with my recent project in Costa Rica. There's an AA meeting I go to every Friday and every Sunday when I go there. It's like instant community built in. Regardless of who you are, they love you. It's so cool. I love it. I got one more question before we hit the rapid fire on Aimee. What about cravings? 4 years out, you still feel them?
I don't. I think more so it's maybe the more emotional part of things, but cravings, I really don't think about alcohol anymore. And it is to look back, through this call and our discussion here, to look back at what day 1 or day 5 was. I just couldn't imagine not thinking about alcohol. And now to reflect back on how does it show up, it just doesn't. And that's a really beautiful thing.
Aimee, we have hit the rapid fire round. If you could answer these questions in 5 to 10 seconds, that would be great. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right. What's the one thing you've learned about yourself on this journey?
Living.
What's your best sober moment?
Going to the Jamie McDonald concert.
What kind of music does Jamie McDonald play?
She's a Christian artist. She's an up-and-coming Christian artist who is also in recovery.
All right. I would say Shane and Shane is my favorite Christian artist. And
Oh,
I'm
okay.
asking you the questions. Here we go. Sorry. What's your favorite alcohol-free drink?
Perrier.
All
Just
right.
plain water.
Aimee, what's the point of life?
I said it before, I live so small, and now I've expanded. I'm expanding. I'm getting out to see other things.
What are some of your favorite resources?
So I would say recovery communities, podcasts, Quit Lit. And I did also listen to your last book, Dolce Vita, which I highly recommend.
Oh, thank you so much for listening. What's your favorite type of pizza?
Definitely not with pineapple.
Not for everybody.
And plain pepperoni is something that just comes to mind for pizza.
Listeners, the PDF that people get when they sign up for an interview, number 9, is pineapple on pizza, yes or no? This is an official recovery elevator question. What parting piece of guidance, Aimee, can you give to somebody who wants to quit drinking?
Just don't quitting. I think shame is what held me back. And if I only knew, that I didn't have to hold on to that.
And before you depart, you might need to ditch the booze if line. Let's hear it.
You might need to ditch the booze if it's noon and you're Googling how to feel human again.
Yeah, that checks out. We're in the right place for sure. Aimee, that flew by. Thank you so much for sharing your story on the RE podcast. What a gift you have given to our listeners today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Most podcast studios aim to get rid of one thing, and that would be noise or excess sound. But here at Recovery Elevator, we do things a little differently, especially when a soundtrack can be beneficial to your nervous system. So I'm into my chicken phase of life. I got chickens about 3 weeks ago. It's been a great learning opportunity. They wanted nothing to do with me the first week and a half. And now a couple of them will jump on my hand when I put my hand in there, even if I don't have any treats. But let me see if I can get them going. I'm going to turn up my mic here. Yep, 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 yep. These things are 6 feet away from me to my right. They are in the podcasting studio. I'm trying to train them with the ukulele. I think they like it. I think the sound of birds is one of the most beautiful sounds in nature. And if we notice the birds, it means we're doing okay. It means our nervous system is in a sense of receivership. We are in a state of calm where we can notice the birds calling us home. It's the best noise ever. I want to thank our production team for today's episode. We have our editor, Natasha, Robin on the show notes, and Chris putting it all together. Recovery elevator, you took the elevator down. You got to take the stairs back up. We can do this. I love you guys.
I see you, Savior, I see you, Savior, Almighty Savior, I see you, Savior, I see you, Savior, I see you, Savior, Almighty Savior, I see you, Savior.